The World Economic Forum annually surveys business and government leaders and their extensive thought leader network about the future risks facing the world. It's called the Global Risk Perception Survey, and from this survey, here are the top 10 risks by impact. Hi, my name is Bruce from the Global Risk Institute. The World Economic Forum released their 16th edition of the Global Risk Report earlier this year. It's a benchmark every risk manager looks forward to reading, with a combination of in-depth deep dives into selected issues and a broader sentiment survey about the future risks facing the world. Today, I'll run through the top 10 hazards that may have the biggest impact. Number 10. IT infrastructure breakdown. I'm not sure about you, but this thing allows me to do so much of my daily activities, from banking to managing the rest of my day. For an organisation, this digital dependency is orders of magnitude more critical. Leaders are concerned about the resilience of our digital dependency. There is a real risk from the deterioration, saturation, or shutdown of critical physical and digital infrastructure. These could be AI-intensive systems, the internet, public utilities, and even satellites. Number 9. The debt crisis. Spending has outstripped tax revenues to support society during the pandemic. Most nations have not seen this level of spending since World War II. The amount of red ink in both the corporate and public balance sheets of our largest economies just raises the stakes of getting the economic recovery right. Even how we're going to get this economic recovery is still in question. Number 8. Extreme weather. I was back in Australia visiting friends and family, and this is when the big bushfires were occurring. Depending on which direction the wind was blowing, it was almost like a Martian landscape, with the sky just blood red in colour from all the ash from the fires. The size and devastation of the fires, to put it into perspective, burnt out an area that was the equivalent of all of England. The destructive power of extreme weather events, be that fires, floods, droughts, or cold snaps like the one we saw in Texas at the beginning of 2021, has shown our vulnerability to this hazard. Number 7. The Livelihood Crisis. This is a particular focus on employment opportunities in the future. The impact of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, automation, AI, the gig economy, structural deterioration of working prospects and standards for the working age population, unemployment, underemployment, lower wages, fragile contracts, erosion of workers' rights. This is a particular area of concern for our economic recovery. The WF Risk Report does a deep dive into how this fractured society is going to provide a real challenge going into the future. Number 6. Human-made environmental damage. This year marks 10 years since Fukushima.
It all started at the epicenter near Sendai. 津波による被害が発生。
Humans' failure to coexist with ecosystems, be that through industrial accidents, oil spills, radioactive contamination, wildlife trade, and deregulation of our protected areas, has the potential to do quite significant damage to society, ecology, and the economy. Number 5. The natural resource crisis. Human overexploitation and or the mismanagement of critical natural resources puts us in great exposure. We're already seeing geopolitical risks surrounding rare earth minerals that are essential to satisfy the insatiable hunger for our electronic devices. Even more fundamental is our pressure on access to food and water, both due to the growth in population and the concentration in urban centres raises the stakes of the resilience planning to not only have the resources, but to be able to have the systems to get those resources to where it's needed. Number 4 is biodiversity loss. Nature's dangerous decline is unprecedented. Species extinction rates are accelerating, It's estimated over 1 million animals and plant species are now threatened with extinction, many within decades. In a 2019 UN report, it highlighted how such erosion of biodiversity affects the foundation of our economies, livelihoods, food security, health, and quality of life. Land degradation has reduced its productivity, increased risks of floods with the loss of coastal habitats, and marine stocks are now being harvested at unsustainable levels. The UK's Ministry of Defence report on global strategic trends puts the increased proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in their top 3 risk concerns. Similarly, the World Economic Forum has this hazard as number 3. The UK report uses a strategic foresight framework to look at potential future worlds. Early warning indicators about the diffusion of power from traditional powerful states and the more international competition rather than cooperation are already being triggered. This leads to a global order which they call fragmentation, in which states, corporations, megacities, and non-state actors, including organised crime and dissident groups, compete for power. This is the scenario where more accessibility to weapons of mass destruction becomes a scary yet likely outcome. Number 2 is climate action failure. Hazards that we've discussed already, biodiversity loss and extreme weather, their impacts are correlated to the potential impacts if we fail in our global effort to arrest climate change. The failure of governments and businesses to enforce, enact, or invest in effective climate change adaptation and mitigation measures, preserve ecosystems, protect populations, and transition to a carbon-neutral economy. Let's break this down a little further. Society will need to invest in both adaptation and mitigation technologies. There's certainly a need to improve efficiency and economics of our renewables, the technology for carbon sequestration, and a drive for carbon efficiencies in our food chains. However, we also need to invest dollars in our aging infrastructure in order to handle what is already volatile weather conditions that we are experiencing today. These need us to protect us from fires, floods, and secure essential utilities such as water. Society, through their elected governments, need to have this conversation now of where that balance is. And finally, despite the best of intentions, it's unlikely we're going to meet targets without some form of enforcement. With the deterioration of world order in recent years, along with the more immediate societal concerns of recovering from the recession, this is going to be an enormous challenge. And number 1, as expected, infectious diseases. What can I add to the dumpster fire we all know as 2020? The economic devastation by grinding society to a halt in order to protect public health has been unprecedented. Yet COVID-19 is the 3rd such coronavirus to hit the world in less than 20 years. So it's not like we haven't had fire drills or dress rehearsals. Of note is how those countries that have been more severely hit by SARS and MERS tended to be the ones who handled COVID-19 better. Now, global sharing of best practice should have been easy in this connected world of ours. However, getting people to pay attention to the risks and to do something about it is just so much more difficult. Massive and rapid spread of viruses, parasites, fungi and bacteria that cause uncontrollable contagion of infectious diseases that will result in epidemics will occur again in our future. This is a matter of when, not if. Advancements in medical science, pharmacology, and resilience in our supply lines is what's needed to step up to ensure that the generally unprepared response of 2020 does not occur again. So that's the top 10 as seen by the World Economic Forum. How many of these risks are going to affect your organisation? How many of them are you prepared for? And as such, that you have become future ready. This is Bruce Choi, signing off.